The Masaesyli are rather an interesting faction, mimicking Rome in a lot of ways, yet retaining a lot of their North African sort of culture and way of fighting. Next to Carthage and the Egyptians, surrounded by other similar tribes. The Masaesyli are a very interesting lot. They mix Roman heavy infantry with African light infantry and guerrilla deployment of stalk. They have a wide array of options, from beasts such as elephants to light maneuverable cavalry to strong melee infantry. Against many opponents, you'll be bringing the bulk of your infantry as desert legionaries, with the occasional desert cohort for that additional melee prowess. They do lack a lot of archers. There's no archers in their roster at all, only slingers and javelins. They lack good spears, though they do have, like, okay low-tier options. Their cavalry is exceptional. Especially the missile cav. The shock cav is cost-effective. Their melee cav is not that good. The infantry itself, like I said, is mixed between the lighter North African style of fighting and the Roman style of fighting. As you can see on these desert figurines down here, you can see the Roman shields starting to come through. They have a lot of cost-effective missiles and a lot of general options. 5, which is a very, very nice amount of general options to have. You can build many different comps of them. Masaesyli is a great anti-sally force with their elite javelin cavalry, though they do lack horse archers. Much like their foot missiles, bows seems to have not been invented yet for the Masaesyli. That's about it for like a brief summary of their strengths and weaknesses. I will say though, they are vulnerable to factions such as Sparta to an extent due to their ability to outrun the legionaries. They do have answers to them with the heavy Numidian javelins. And they don't like fighting factions like Nervii, because you have 5 heavy Numidians if you use +1 or 4. And now you've deleted, what, 4 or 5 fierce swords. And a Nervii comp could have 8 along gorillas and Celtic warriors in the Oathsworn. So some faction matchups aren't brilliant for Masaesyli due to the low melee defense, with the exception of there's a cohort. Some can be really, really good, such as against 4-axe factions are really going to struggle against Masaesyli. But that's enough said, we'll go meet them out on the open plains in the meta checker now. So we'll kick it off with the slave infantry, which, first thing you know, this is their loose spacing ability, as covered when I did Kush. They are very low armor, as you can see, only 5. Really good attack stats for only being 140. No javelins like most units in the game do. Okay health, because 50 health is pretty good for only 140, let's be honest. Really good charge for that price too. Like, negative melee defense though, no morale, though they are slaves. What do you expect? It's slaves. So, really, really good low tier for Masaesyli, especially for putting up their siege equipment, as it's in loose spacing. Kind of mitigates that low armor a little bit. And they're great battle buddies due to that high weapon damage. Moving on to their 2 low tier spears, the only spears I might even consider getting for Masaesyli, is the Desert Vigilais and Numidian Spearmen. Vigilais coming at 40 more. Sacrifice the bonus versus large for better stats overall and a little less defense. But the Numidian Spearmen have higher defense, the bonus versus large, and then of course being 40 more. Both of which have square. Either unit can work, it's up to you. Though, if you want armor, there's Vigilais. If you want bonus versus large or defense, look at that, 79 defense. Good Numidian Spearman. Sorry. However, you're more than likely better off taking the slave infantry unless you're on defense, in which case in certain situations the square loot formation on these units can be helpful. Moving on to their 2 vanguard or guerrilla deployment lower end troops. We got the Numidian light infantry, which is sort of their version of a Celtic warrior, and a Gator the tribesmen, both of which are very unique. Numidian light infantry kind of 380, really high charge bonus, solid defensive stats, Really good morale. Okay survivability and okay mana defense for 380. They're still a very, very good unit. They're not quite as good as Celtic Warriors because of the damage of the Celtic Warriors, but they are still very, very good in their guerrilla deploy, of course. And their sort of brother over here, the Kitui Tribesman, 0 armor, very rare to see that, 0, less than a naked, because they don't even have shields, these guys. They have 15 bonus versus infantry, frenzy, which is a flat 20 charge bonus. So as you can see, 56 charge bonus, along with 15 bonuses infantry, meaning on the charge against infantry, they are going to have 101 melee attack. Not a lot of melee defense though. No survivability, of course. Good morale. And they once again have guerrilla deploy. No stalk for either of these units. I will say it's just guerrilla deploy, meaning they can't stay hidden for a long time. This unit is very, very risky. I've used it, but not in competitive play. They can be useful, but I don't recommend bringing them that often, because 520, sorry, you can get one of the Numidian Lights and a slave, and that's probably going to get more valuable than something with 0 armor and extremely low melee defense, despite their incredible offensive stats. Now moving on to their proper mid-tier core, I wouldn't bring them with Numidian Spearmen. I'll go through it now. They got 620. They have good defense, okay survivability, lowish morale, shield, screen, and cav counter. Mid offensive stats. Once again, it's a spear unit that has no peeler, and it is a big thing in Rome, and no elite spear. So you're gonna be tight for killing anything with this. Though against cav, due to the heavy mass, they might do okay, but no javies. But the cav counterattacks is nice, and they're good charge bonus. So I wouldn't really recommend them, especially due to the extreme cost efficiency of their sword brother, the Desert Legionaries, who have the loose spacing that all Roman units get, except for like Viglae, stuff like that. Low melee defense, exceptional survivability, good morale, low charge bonus, really good offensive stats. Always bring at least 7 Desert Legionaries, it depends on what rule set you're using, 7 or 8. They have Testudo, not really that useful. They go up to like 90 melee missile block chance. But they're so compact. God forbid a Scorpion or something similar hits them. I don't recommend it, so don't do it. You're better off against missiles going to lose spacing. But yeah, for 700, better than a 4-axe, it's going to cook most things that will struggle against that high charge bonus Fierce Sword of Nervii and like Galatian Legionaries. They can be outdone, but they're very hard to outdo. Moving on to their quote-unquote elite units, or high-tier units, so you have the Desert Cohort, and the Numidian Noble Infantry. Kicking out the Desert Cohort for 980 as they are the cheaper one. Compared to the Desert Legionaries, they are essentially Eagle Cohort for 50 more, so 980. So these guys have 12 more defense, 10 more armor, 10 more morale, and courage, 2 less charge bonus with the same attack stats. For 980, they cost 280 more. They retain the loose spacing and attacking testudo. Really, really good. Much better against the cycles due to that really high melee defense. This is a Legionnaire unit that gets rid of the downsides of being a Legionnaire with the low melee defense, with the exception that they still don't have shield wall. So a Chariot can do very good against them if they don't have their Peeler anymore. But this is a really, really strong unit. Can go toe-to-toe with most units other than, you know, stuff like Oathsworn or other elites. But they're extremely strong. You could spam these guys on attack if you wanted, if you know you're going to be needing that melee defense. Against a faction like Arverni, then you could very well go Desert Cohort spam rather than Desert Legionaries. Still very, very strong. Just use them in conjunction with the heavy Numidian skirmishers, and you'll be very, very fine. You'll be good. Good to go. Numidian Noble Infantry, one of the general options. I don't recommend. It doesn't have the elite spear. It does get javelins. It does get shield, screen, square, and cav counter. Good defense, good survivability, good morale, really good charge. Once again, it's the elite spear. It's the lack of a good defensive formation, and the fact that swords just kill more and they are more expensive than a Desert Cohort, which are just superior in every way other than against cavalry. So why are you spending $1,000 on a really good anti-cav unit that's just gonna get outran by cav? It's not really worth it, though it is a general option. Tribal Slingers, they're basic slingers. For 270, I think they are overpriced, though they're still like their only ability to do damage from a long range. 270 is still a cheap slinger. You have like no survivability here, low damage, though it's still a cheap slinger. Much like cheap javelins, they're gonna get that value shooting almost anything. It's a great way to soften them up before the heavy Numidians close in, or your melee infantry to do the real damage. I'd always recommend bringing some of these guys. And you got two javelin options. Tribesman, the most cost-effective low-tier javelin in the game at only 190. Still retain that 32 missile damage, but everything else is completely awful. They do have fire shot, but they are still, you know, one of the best skirmisher units in the game due to the 190 cost and having that damage, 32. They have a better variant than Numidian skirmishers, or Numidian javelin, sorry, with better stats overall, but they cost almost double at 340 for no real benefit other than in melee, which they still suck in melee anyway, so they're a bit of a scam unit. So don't bring the Numidian javelinmen, bring the tribesmen, or the heavy Numidian skirmishers. Extremely cost-effective javelin unit. It's armored with 50% missile block chance, quick reload, fire shot, 41 missile damage with 7 volleys of it, so it's going to do a lot of damage. It's good in melee. It's got the 35 damage gladius weapon with good attack, okay charge, low defense, though it's a skirmisher unit. This is like an all-in-one. It's very, very, very good. Pairs very well with your Desert Legionaries and cohort. This is sort of your answers to the things that your opposition would bring as an answer to your legionaries, your infantry. You bring these guys to counter the cycling and shooting the hoplites, trying to make them, like, for example, Royal Spartan show spear side, or even just shooting them normally. You're probably going to kill quite a few of them, provided they've been in combat, taken some HP damage beforehand. Very, very good unit. Always recommend a lot of these guys. 2 shock cav, low end and mid tier shock cav. The low end one has guerrilla deploy and no stalk. They have good charge bonus, okay offensive stats, low defense, no survivability, low morale. For 440, I highly recommend this unit. If you're trying to get that jump on the enemy, they are only medium, but they're also very cheap, so that's why I recommend them. Also the Vanguard deploy, guerrilla deploy, whatever you want to call it. It's so good. It's very good if you want to get the jump and try and burn the enemy ballista, because there is another unit coming up that does have the ability to guerrilla deploy a fire shot. And they're not going to win any cav fights for you, but if they do get into the skirmishes like Eastern Archers, they can get that value very, very quickly. They're very good. Highly recommend the Numidian Riders if you want to get that jump on the opposition early. Armored Numidian Riders. The upgraded version of these guys in every category except they lose that guerrilla deploy. I did forget to mention the guerrilla deploy is also, you know, can be used on all the units for guerrilla deploying siege equipment. Armored Numidians, good charge bonus, good offensive stats, low defense as a all shot cav, and it's like the same survivability as a Masaesyli. These guys are really, really good. They just lack a bit more of that offensive stats that the Masaesyli gets and the morale, but they do cost 50 less, and they are a general option. So really cost-effective gen option alongside the heavy Numidian skirmishers. So these will be your 2 most common ones. And then the third one is the Numidian nobles. Armored Numidian riders, really good, 690. I highly recommend this as a general option to give that extra flexibility to your army. In terms of melee cav, it's sorely lacking. Desert cavalry, their version of light cavalry, so we all know I don't like them. They're not going to kill anything, except maybe in campaign. Though their offensive stats is quite nice. Armored Desert Cavalry is still bad. They have weird flying wedge. Not great survivability. Not great overall stats, so that melee defense is quite high. Alongside the Desert Legionary Cavalry. Higher end armor. They do get javelins for 700. Desert Cavalry, the light one is 450. Armored Desert Cav 580. 700. You're still getting low stats across the board, but you get peeler and survivability. Not worth it. They get some of these Roman cavalry weird things. I've never really seen this in action. What the hell even is this? Cavalry Testudo. But clearly they seem to be like showing their shields to the enemy, and they can't move in this formation. I have absolutely no idea. Don't bring it. This is not a good unit. Bring the Armored Numidian Riders instead. They have 2 chariots, special units. Desert chariots, not worth bringing. They're like 840 and 50-ish. They have no good stats at all. At most, they'll get about 200 kills. Unless the opponent is actually just installed the game yesterday. Their better variant, they have a Desert Chariots, which is a general option. It's a bit better with a bit more survivability. Still low attack stats. And still, they're not the most brilliant chariot in the game. They're a cheap chariot, like 900 and something. Don't compare to the Masaesyli ones, which cost only 900. They are obviously capped at 4 both, respectively. And before we get into the elephants, I'll do the Javcav. 4 options. You have Numidian Cavalry, Gaetuli Horse Skirmishers, Armoured Numidian Cavalry, and the Numidian Noble Cavalry. So starting off with the Gaetuli Horse Skirmishers, I forgot their exact cost. I think it's like 430, 450. These guys have Guerilla Deploy. So these are the units that you can use to burn the Ballista with Flaming Shot. All Javelin Cav and Masaesyli has 41 missile damage. These guys, once they're out of javelins, they won't kill anything in melee. They're light. They're just there to use their javs, get the jump on the enemy, can be used in conjunction with the Numidian riders. It's a bit more of a risky pick because it means you can take less of your really cost-effective heavy Numidian skirmishers. Numidian cavalry is essentially the Gaetuli Horse skirmishers, except without Guerilla Deploy, and they get quick reload and some quick mix and match of stats. Slightly more survivable. For 390, it's good, but they're not what defines Masaesyli's Javcav. They're cost effective, though I wouldn't recommend bringing them. Now for Javcav, my favourite unit is the Armoured Numidian. I'll get onto the elite in a minute. These guys for 920 have armor, excellent defensive stats, heavy mass, so they're gonna do a lot of damage on a charge, good survivability, really good attack stats. For 920, they are arguably the most cost-effective Javelin Cav in the game. And the Numidian Noble is just an upgraded version of them for 1,200, also being a general option. As you can see, it's just upgraded stats for the most part. And these guys get Cantabria Circle and quick reload. And then African Elephants, 1,400. One of the worst elephant units in the game, though still an elephant. It's going to do a lot of damage if you can get into the enemy and not go berserk in your own lines. They can do a lot of damage, but they're still a very risky to use to bring. And they do also obviously come as a general option. I think I counted them wrong. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 general options. Okay, apparently I can't count. It is what it is. Here's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I just can't count. But like I said, very risky. Though it's a cheaper elephant option. You can bring them. They're probably going to do a lot of damage against factions like Rome that don't have a lot of shield wall once they're out of ammo. But yeah, that's Masaesyli. A very fun faction, mixing the Roman influence with the North African style of fighting, guerrilla deploy, light troops, and high damage skirmishing. And I'll see you in the next one.